This is Fragpunk. We're here on PlayStation 5 Pro. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So we had played this one prior here when it was in its beta testing. Actually, I've been taking a look at this thing since it was essentially in its alpha. And it's really quite exciting to see it finally release here on the console side of things after a little bit of a delay. Voice chat's disabled. I want a melee. That's weird. Oh, I forgot melee you actually have to switch to... Yeah, I'm a fool. My bad. Anyways, yeah, so this game is interesting. It's basically like a free-to-play Counter-Strike-esque game where every single round is a little bit different because you're playing with these cards. So these cards essentially change up every single round of the game because the cards will completely be different depending on what your team picks, what the other team picks, and then there's other little variables as well, and then a variety of different maps. And it's really quite an interesting shooter. I quite like it after enemies drop their primary weapon. That actually sounds really awesome. So yeah, it's one of those hero kind of shooter games mixed with Counter-Strike, mixed with a card-based system. So the cards have different effects. They can make oh, I've got a giant head this round. Generate Reaper Scythes, your spawn site. Oh, that's really fun. So, yeah, basically, there's all these quirky cards. Like I said, you could have a large head, or the floor is ice so you can slide, or maybe double jumping, or I don't know, there's grass on the field, or enemies, have certain negatives, or your team has certain positives, or you've got turtle shells on your back. And it's really interesting because the meta of the game can entirely change at any given time just based on if they add, say, a new card to the game or something like that. So a new card will genuinely change up every part of the experience because it's a new way to play the game and experience it and compete with others. And I think that in itself is really quite cool. So it's got the seriousness of Counter-Strike, the movement, the sound, everything like that, the fact that you die really quickly. All of that stuff is present here, and it's very competitive at times. But it's just got a bit of a zany angle to it that I absolutely adore. I really do think this game is quite a bit of fun. Seriously, I enjoyed it thoroughly from the moment I first basically tried it on the PC side of things. And then, when it eventually came to the console and everything like that. And I've got it synchronized across accounts, so you've got cross progression. So if you've been playing this on PC because of the delay for the full console release, yeah, basically your stuff just kind of carries over, which is sort of nice for sure, gameplay-wise. And it just gives you an easy way to continue what you're doing and stuff. So there's something over 100 shard cards already. Time you crouch, you increase your max health. There's a selection of 12 heroes, 17 different guns, and of course they can add more over time. The rounds are short, they're fast, they're action-packed. You'll live and die pretty quickly. And just the aesthetics and everything of the maps can change really quickly too, The map look can change based on what's happening, and there's just a lot of variables. That's a big thing I kind of crave in shooter games. Is you play something like, I don't know, Call of Duty or even Counter-Strike. It's it's the same, map over and over and over again. And it's yeah, sure, your competition's a little different, your enemies are a little different, but you are relatively doing the same thing every single time. Just with this one, the setups are completely different, and you're never really sure how everything is going to end up going because there could be something wildly different going on during your play, and I think that in itself is really cool, and it's about making the fast plays, hitting the right shots, and making the right moves to kind of win. And it's great because the rounds are relatively quick, and the matches don't take forever, which is kind of nice and appreciated. If you play some of the games like this, these tactical ones, the matches can kind of just go on, and everything here just pacing-wise feels really quick. So as far as technical details here, It's a 4K resolution, but there's 3 different visual profiles that are present here within this one. I think you've been maybe seeing the frame rate at the top, and that's like an internal frame rate. Like obviously consoles, they go up to 120. That's just like HDMI limit. And like you can have it unlimited frames, or you can sync it to whatever level you want. It's basically just inheriting a bunch of PC stuff, and they didn't really tune things. And then you can do your post-processing effects. You can have different filters on if you want to like change how things look. There's your FOV. If you're having tearing issues, depending on the mode you're on, you can have an anti-tearing. And then there's visual simplification. So if you're finding that there's too much detail in the environment, oh, it's catching your eyes, oh, you're not seeing objects well enough, you want to kill things better, that's sort of the option. So you've been playing on balanced as far as quality presets. So basically, it just changes how kind of dynamically like scaling the resolution is, if that makes sense, like how much it like draws up and down, whereas, you know, it just kind of balances out, and it's like it just looks, you know, slightly different, but you're getting a pretty smooth frame rate, I think, no matter how you go about it on PlayStation. Like honestly here, whether you want to play, you know, just the base quality, or if you want to play with this one that, you know, grants more frame rate, again, like your console output is 120 because it's just how HDMI 2.1 is done, right? Like you're not getting, let's just like this is what the consoles do. So you're not getting anything higher if you do, you know, it's kind of a lie because it's more of an internal frame rate target, right? So that's not actually, you're not getting like 200 FPS or something like that. And then finally, we'll switch over to the other mode, which is the prioritize graphics, and that's just like more of a full 4K there. And then you can do there's blur, and then there's UI resolution, which doesn't really matter too much, and animation physics. Like they do actually give you a lot of settings for it being a console, which is kind of nice. And it's really up to you if you want things. And then performance metrics are here, but they're on by default, because I guess that's something people like, and there's a colorblind mode. So you definitely get a lot of options, you know, kind of like visually, aesthetically, gameplay-wise, that will allow you to fine-tune your experience here. Oh, we actually won? That was fast. Okay. So we got another match here, and again, we're at sort of the full quality kind of mode on this one. And as you can tell, like, it looks really clean and sharp. It's still noting we're getting well above the bounds of the frame rate targets of 120. So it's really just whatever profile you want to play on and stuff. Like, it's basically 120 FPS no matter what you choose. So it's mostly comes down to like the sharpness quality you want. I got absolutely just obliterated there. Look, that guy just knew I was coming. It was great. Well, I mean, it makes noise, right, when you're walking, I guess. Not used to them being so fast around the corner there, which is kind of wild. But yeah, no, I really like this game. I actually think it's quite neat. Wow, we got just smoked that round. Like, there is actually, like, a lot of strategy, especially if you have players and teammates that understand what's going on. And then the cards are just sort of like this really fun, like, extra twist. They just really change up the potential for how chaotic things can be within your world, and I think that in itself is really, really quite fun. And it genuinely seems like a pretty interesting game that they are working on. A dropped weapon becomes a turret? Okay, that's ridiculous. They actually really are working on trying to add a variety of, I guess you would say, setups and scenarios for conflict where the game just continues to feel kind of fresh and different, and I like the cast of characters. I definitely think they've got some cool vibes and styles and quirks to them, and different abilities too, and that's a big thing in the game, is learning what each of the hero, I guess you would say, esque characters do in terms of their abilities and how they impact the game. What is going on there? So, oh, come on. That was totally on me for messing up on those shots. So I think that in itself is really, really quite interesting. It's just seeing the dynamics of, like, okay, this character, they do a crazy sniper shot. This character makes walls. This one throws a little robot thing. This one can detect characters. This one does, like, a sandstorm kind of wall for cover. And then, of course, the game will naturally evolve over time. This is like a blitzkrieg here. So, as you continue to play the game, you're going to see, you know, more cards, you're going to see more events, you're going to see more activities. Like, this is the main game mode, but there's also like a zombies mode, and I think like a bit of a deathmatch, like practice kind of mode thing too. And that in itself is all quite fascinating, because it just changes up the experience here. Steal enemy movement. I don't know how good that is. But we don't really have the money currency to get Butterfingers, do we? These cards are kind of crazy too, because they're a lot more evolved than the cards that were present when I first played this game, before like launch and stuff like that, and even when I played it on PC. What are these guys doing? What are they fighting each other? You guys want to go to A or to B? Why? Gonna get us totally killed here, aren't you? That's what I'm talking about, though. I really think this game just has genuinely fascinating mechanics to it that, like, completely change up every single battle that you go on. And that's just the spice of life, is, like, it's not the same. And that, to me, is really, really quite exciting. Because I get so tired of shooter games that kind of, you know, you do the same sort of thing over and over again. And it's like, I love shooters. I really do. I get a lot of playtime off of shooter games, but I can definitely see where it's like, oh, you're doing the same sort of thing over and over again. Whereas for this one, you really don't experience that, because the dynamics of every match being a little fresh. Oh, come on. If my teammates would have just went over to where I told them over there at A, we would have been able to get that bomb planted. Yeah, so it leaves room for competitive play where things are serious, but it also leaves room for things being fun, and it's just the random zaniness of life where it's like, you never know what's going to happen. You don't know what cards are going to come up, you don't know what kind of components you're going to see in the battle, you don't know what people you're going to go up against. And that in itself is really, really cool. Relocate a target. That's where I'm going to throw my points into. Then you got your relics, so, you know, you can get extra points that way. Like, this very, very interesting. It's simplistic, but yet complex gameplay mechanics that I think really do make this one kind of interesting. And it's really how you... It's how you approach the game that I think is really, really quite cool. And, like, okay, how do you set up your turrets? Where do you set up your defenses? You know, what kind of a system are you trying to create here as you're fighting against this other team that's doing things? And it's against that fold of, hey, this is like Counter-Strike. But I think it's a lot more kind of dynamic in a sense. Like, you know, Counter-Strike's obviously Counter-Strike, but this just has a bit of zany action and fun with it, where... yeah, I can take it super seriously, but then there's also like a little bit of fun to be had because it is a little bit silly. Silly with a bit of a purpose. And like I said, I really like the characters and stuff. Why did I pull up my map at that point? I was just trying to actually look and see if we had a full team anymore, because I was like, where's all their guys at? Wow, that was terrible. Okay, another match, I guess. I'm mostly eager to see where this game changes over time, though, and how it evolves. Like, I think it's got a really, really solid foundation here, and I've actually thoroughly, like I mentioned, kind of enjoyed it since the first moment I played it during what was the alpha sort of situation of the game, where you were, you know, kind of seeing the bare bones of it, and then seeing the console-like betas, and yeah, I really like what this has to offer. I genuinely find it to be a rather fascinating twist on the whole shooter genre. Obviously quite familiar, but just enough of a twist that I'm kind of like, oh, that's not good. Quite into the turns and combat and the style of it, and I think it plays pretty well, and I think the shooting is pretty well done on this. Yeah, I think you will be. If you give it a shot, you will have fun with this one. It's got a great selection of maps that all look different, and they're all pretty cool and well balanced. I think the combat is relatively balanced. Sometimes you blitz other teams and destroy them. Sometimes you get blitzed. Sometimes it's an even back and forth. Remain crouched for 6 seconds to lay an egg that can be eaten to regain health. Huh. That's actually hilarious. See, it's stuff like that. It's just kind of funny. Like, we're doing super serious, like, oh, you gotta get the right headshot area to take out an enemy. But then there's, like, abilities where if you crouch long enough, an egg comes out and it gives you health. And it's just, like, the dumb but really entertaining things you can do with this game feel just relatively endless and creative. And I love that type of gameplay design. It's so intriguing to put this right here. And there's all this like little stuff you can do. Like I like playing as this character quite a bit, just because I find like the class stuff kind of interesting. And I feel like for these, you know, it's not necessarily like a full-on hero shooter, but for these games where you are selecting a character that has certain abilities, and you know, something like Valorant, I guess, is a comparable to. It's very, very helpful to pick something and kind of just get used to how that character kind of functions. I'm on your team. Chug chug, go away! And I think the end results here, it looks really clean visually. It's quite sharp. Yeah, I'm very, very happy with the end result of this one, because if you weren't there for the, you know, the beta and stuff, it definitely had a lot of work that it needed to have done. But yeah, I think visually and stuff like that, the results here are quite splendid indeed. It's also cool, I should mention, that when you are battling, if the game does go into tying scenarios, essentially what can happen is like you'll get to like a tiebreaker thing where it becomes a bit of a 1v1, sort of a shootout type thing where, you know, one person on one person, and then the person that survives, you go on to the next round, but like you have the health and the stats and the items you had in the previous round, so you become slightly easier to kill every time. And it's actually a very hyper competitive kind of setup. It seems like a lot of work to do the super jump. Oh, that is so cool! I love the super jump thing. That's so stupid. It's literally gonna get me killed, but it's lots of fun. Because they definitely would not expect you to be moving like that, right? And then you just kind of zip around. It's this kind of stuff that I just find so cool. We haven't even shown off things like sliding or... Trust me when I'm just saying there's such a variety of unique and interesting gameplay mechanics that this can provide, that I sort of wish other games would sort of take that idea and kind of play around with it a bit more. Because that is just so interesting. That you can like, oh, I just want to do like a super jump. But it's a temporary thing, right? So like the next round, everything's different. So every single round, the rules are unique, the setups are different, the scenarios are crazy. And that's so cool. And then you match that with some pretty good looking visuals here on the PlayStation 5 Pro, a good performance level, a competitive play, gunplay that feels good. I think you got a really winning combination here. Entering a portal will randomly take you... There's only so many portals. The faster you move, the higher damage you deal. I like that, because I move pretty quick. And then you can like refresh your cards. See, there's all these dynamics that I just absolutely love about this. Mostly, Fragpunk gets my big stamp of I really, really too genuinely like this game. And as I was saying, you go all the way back to the first time I played this during like the alpha thing. On PC, and the absolute same sort of thoughts there. I cannot switch. Is this a knives only round? Oh. That's not good. I'm not good with the knife only round. I always end up getting obliterated and die and be sad, but... No, I actually got the hang of it over these other guys. Cool. So Fragpunk, definitely a free-to-play game to check out.